Okay, I'm making this video for my special friend Bass. Hey Bass, how's it going? I hope you're having an awesome day, buddy. I heard you like to make music, so I thought I'd go ahead and show you how I do it. So I've been making music for quite a long time. I make it on a computer. I don't really know how to read sheet music, unfortunately, but I do know a little bit about music theory, and I'll probably show you some of that stuff too. Right now, I'm just gonna go over like the basics. Um, so first of all, I use something called Reaper, and you can download it from this website. I actually don't know if it's going to show through OBS. You can download it from a website called Reaper.fm. As soon as you find the web page, it should say download Reaper right at the top left corner. I think we're on version 7.59, just came out January 10th, and I'm using the one just before that. But anyways, Reaper is called a digital audio workstation, or DAW for short, and that's kind of like the building blocks of everything that we're going to be using. You should see it on the screen right now. Um, and yeah, I'm going to play you something that I just made like a few days ago. It's a melodic dark trap beat. It doesn't have my vocals on it, but I'm going to show you how I made it. So it's a pretty basic song. I do have some other very complex songs, which I'd be more than happy to show you that stuff as well. But I thought this would be really good for kind of like a beginner kind of tutorial thing. There's going to be quite a bit of stuff actually jam-packed in this video. So yeah, hope you enjoy. So first of all, what we have going on here is this is my drum loop. I chopped it up. I'll show you why I chopped it up. So the reason why I chopped that up is so that I can separate the kick from the snare and the hi-hats and all that stuff. Um, you're probably wondering what the stuff on the side is. So what we have on the side here are actually tracks, and when we insert a track in Reaper, that's what we can put audio or MIDI files on. So this song is actually all audio instead of like a lot of MIDI. I think, oh wow, even the sub bass is MIDI, but I'll explain the difference between that in a second. But all these things on the side here, all these different colors, these are actually like where our sound is sort of going to be coming from. It's more of like a container. It's holding the thing that's going to give us the sound. So if we click right here, now we have our effects window, and this is kind of like where our sound is actually going to come from. So you can see here, I hope you can see. Um, I don't know if I can make that bigger. Probably not, but it says ReQ. That's something called an equalizer, and it just has our frequency spectrum, and we're going to be able to like pick and choose what we want to keep if we want to get rid of the lows, the mids, or the highs, and I'll explain what those are as well. But our sounds here are actually coming from something called Arcade. So Arcade does cost money, but what it is it's like a huge sample library. So that's where I'm actually getting these drums from. I'm not like actually playing the drums. Although you could do that. If you had a MIDI drum set, you could play your own drums. But I don't have that. So I use this Arcade thing, and it gives me a whole bunch of sounds. And again, just to quickly remind you, Arcade goes onto a track in Reaper. If you just had Arcade by itself, it would play sounds, but you wouldn't be able to arrange them in Reaper on these tracks. So if you're good with all that, the next thing I'm going to tell you about is this cool thing called CoProducer. Now, if you get Output 1, it's a subscription pack. It will actually give you Arcade and this thing called Co-Producer. Now, this thing called Co-Producer is going to save you so much time. Unbelievable. Like, so much time. It's crazy. So you can see here, I just typed in Dark Trap, right? So if I type in dark, sorry, I'm typing with like one hand. I'm kind of slow. If I type in Dark Melodic Trap and then hit Find Sample, it's going to use like an AI engine to look through Arcade for you, and it's going to show you cool stuff. So I don't know, oh man, I don't know if you can hear that or not. I've actually never streamed or recorded myself making music, so I don't know if the audio is passing through properly, but I know you can see it. So if we were to take this and drag it onto one of our tracks, now we have the audio file on our track into our digital audio workstation so that we can manipulate it and do cool stuff. And that's pretty much how I got all these sounds on this song. I do have other songs where, like I said, I get way more complex and we're actually writing MIDI and stuff. But this whole sequencing, dragging and dropping is actually how a lot of mainstream music is made. And over the years, it's what I've switched to because it just makes things so much faster. Um, so anyways, what I've done here is I've dragged my drums in, and like I said, I chopped them up. Reason being I wanted my kick separated from the snare. You can see it's got like that nice big thump. Another thing too is if you don't have headphones or if you don't have something that has a subwoofer like a car stereo, headphones, or like basically a big speaker, if you don't have that, you're not going to hear a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about. So you are going to probably want some headphones. Even like cheap earbuds from the dollar store. Anything that plays sub bass and bass is pretty much what you're gonna want for this. Um, but it's got like a loud thump, and the drums don't actually come like that. What I've done to get that loud thumping noise is I'm using something called compression. So compression, usually it crunches things down. But there's also another form of compression called upward compression, and that's what's going on here. I'm using this plugin called Stressbox. It's something that I just started using. I absolutely love it. Super easy to use. Normally, when you have a compressor, here let me show you a crazy one. Normally, when you have a compressor, it's like super complicated, and there's like a whole bunch of knobs and like stuff to learn and whatnot. Um, but with Stressbox, it's pretty easy. When you turn this knob to the right, it gets louder and more aggressive. When you turn it to the left, it does something called expansion, which kind of just makes it. It can sound quieter on some things, but what it's doing is when you're making music, you have a left and right channel. It's called a stereo field, and the expansion gives it more on each. So if you're listening in mono, really centered, it might sound a little bit more quiet, but it's going to sound more like full and around you. I don't know if that's the greatest way to explain that, but. And then I've got something called Thermal. That's just the name of the plugin, but the actual thing that's happening here is saturation. Saturation. Now, saturation is a type of distortion. You're going to hear about distortion a lot. A lot of music is basically just distortion, compression, and arrangement. But it's doing like a lot of things. Now, to be honest, I just got Thermal like last week, so I'm not entirely sure how to explain all this stuff to you. But again, it's actually super easy. I barely did anything to it. It's using something called soft clipping, which, to be honest, I don't even know what soft clipping does. I just know it's a really popular form of distortion. But this is cool because you can distort it on like different bands. So going back to our EQ, we have a frequency spectrum here. It goes along a bandwidth, and the bandwidth is pretty much just like the measurement of the whole thing. Um, so we can actually distort on different bands. So you can see here it says low and high. So I turn the low down and then the high up a bit, and it's with this specific kick, it's giving us a really cool like thump sound. There's different types of sounds you can go for, like knocking, thumping, rumbling, different types of stuff. But we went for a thump sound on this one. What am I doing to the snare? Okay, the snare, I'm kind of doing the exact same thing. Again, just compression, a little bit of saturation, probably different effects on the saturation, and then I'm bringing down the high just a little bit. It probably sounded just a little too sharp the way it was. And what do we have on our main thing? Okay, sweet. Yeah, a lot of this stuff, we're doing the exact same thing to it. One of the other things that we have going on is called side chaining. So I'm going to show you how to set the side chain up. I'm going to show you how to set up everything actually in just a second. We're actually just going to make a song together in just a second. But I just kind of giving you a rundown on what you're getting into with all this stuff. So the side chain is basically whenever one thing happens, another thing stops happening, but like not entirely, just slightly. So a huge example of that in like house music or pretty much any type of bass music, whenever the kick comes in, the bass usually dips out. And it's like a main thing that's in a lot of music, and I'll show you how to do that. The vocals here have some cooler things going on. Using a pitch shifter, to be honest, I don't even remember why I'm using the pitch shifter. I think it's just ever so slightly. I think I have them pitched up. Yeah, I have them pitched up ever so slightly. This thing is a super magical tool. You're probably not going to have this, but this has like a whole bunch of things in one. So, sorry, you can see it has this thing called reverb and delay. That is huge for vocals. Reverb is going to make it sound like it's kind of like in a cathedral or something. And a delay is kind of like basically an echo. I don't know why they don't just call it echo. But anyways, let's start a brand new track together right now. I'll show you how I do this like from square one. Like just, without all that nonsense. I'll show you how I do it. Oh, I haven't talked on camera in a while. Okay, so this is what it's probably going to look like for you. It's what it looked like for me at first as well. And then I decided that that I wanted to create a template, and I could show you how to create a template as well. Why are my eyes not working? Oh my god, there we go. Sorry. So now you can see it looks like it did before. There's a bunch of colored stuff on the sides. I actually put all that stuff there. I saved it as a template so that when I go to make music, I don't have to make all those tracks and apply all those effects. Like a lot of these effects are new, so they're not in the template. This one is. So again, we're going to start with co-producer. I'm going to stick with the F minor key because F minor is really good for like dark, heavy kind of sounding tracks, and that's kind of what I'm going for with a lot of this cyberpunk stuff. So you just tell co-producer what you want to make. I'm going to say dark melodic trap. Oh, I can't believe I forgot. One more thing too I'm going to tell you about really quickly here. So if we look down here, I don't know if you can see it. It's probably really small. I don't know if you're watching on a phone or a computer, but there's a little music sign, and then it says 70. That's our BPM. It's essentially how fast the song is. I don't know if that's the greatest way to explain it. Yeah, it's kind of like how fast the song is, I guess, or how fast the musical notes are actually going to be moving. Because we're using audio and not MIDI, you might not see a huge difference, but you'll definitely feel a difference when we start creating. If we were to turn that up to like 140, a lot of the samples would sound a lot different, and maybe we'll do that just for fun. So let's start going through looking for a melody. That's what I start with, is I start with melodies basically. I don't really usually start with drums. I know, I kind of like that one. It sounds pretty like dark and melodic, which is like what we're going for. So you see how I just drag it onto my timeline. This is called the timeline. So I drag it onto my timeline, and then I arrange it by bringing it over here. So this part of the process is called sequencing or arrangement, and then we're going to move on to mixing after that. Turn that down just a bit for now. We can bring it back up later if we need to. So usually I would just actually have this loop while I'm looking for the next thing. That might get really annoying though, so I don't know if you want to listen to that, but we definitely want it playing while we're listening to the drums. This button down here is gonna repeat, so every time the selector gets to the end of your arrangement, it'll just restart. So I'm gonna turn that on because we want to make sure that we're listening to like find the right rhythm for the drums. And your relationship to anything happening with the drums or the beat is called your cadence. So we want to make sure that the cadence kind of matches our rhythm of our melody. Okay, so I'm actually pretty happy with that. I didn't think we were going to find something that decent our first try, but I'm actually pretty happy with that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy and paste. So I hold Control and hit C on the keyboard, and then I'm going to hold Control and hit V. I don't know if you know all the shortcuts, but I use a lot of shortcuts because if you don't, this stuff takes forever. Alternatively, of course, you can right click and copy items, I guess, and then I didn't even know where it was in the right click menu. That's crazy. But anyways, yeah, that's how I do that. Now again, I'm just gonna put my dark trap melody back in here because I'm not really done with the melody yet. I know we have a cool little thing going, but I'm not actually done with that yet. That one's cool too. Yeah, okay. So like if you might take a lot more time, um, to look for all these things eventually. Like when you're making your own song, you could make a song, you could spend 6 hours on a song, or you could make something really cool in like 20 minutes if you really want to. We're just gonna go kind of try to go quickly through this. I think I already talked your ear off in the beginning. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm happy with that. So, what I would do, what we can do next, and sorry, you notice how we're just throwing everything in my drums column right now? Normally, you would take this and you would actually bring it down here, and you would take this and you would bring it down here. Maybe we'll actually do that. But normally you would kind of separate everything. It just makes it easier. It gives you a better workflow. I don't know if what you're listening on, if you have headphones or not, but you might have noticed the sound changed a little bit. That's because on my template down here, I have reverb and compression on these red parts because they're actually, usually I add all that stuff at the end. It makes it sound really cool. But we're going to get into that later on. We're just focusing on arrangement right now. So the next thing I'm going to do, I actually should have done this before I even started this recording for you. We're going to make sub bass, and just so I can show you even more cool stuff, we're going to actually make our own sub bass. We're not just going to drag some pre-made sub bass. We're actually going to make our own this time. I still do this for a lot of my songs, actually. So this is something called Serum. It's a synthesizer. It's a filter modulation. Yeah, filter modulation synthesizer. FM for short. It's one of the most powerful ones probably on the market. And this is Serum 2. So I purchased Serum, so every time they upgrade it, they give me the next one for free. Haven't actually messed around with it that much, but I do know how to use it. And it might look a little bit intimidating because there are a lot of parameters on this. But don't worry about it. We're going to fly through it, and we're not even going to use everything. Sub bass is super basic. And actually, we're going to cheat I know cheating's not good, but we're actually gonna cheat real quick, just to save some time, and we're gonna steal the sub bass from my other song. It's basically, again, just a template. I try to have templates for everything. It just makes things faster. Now, it doesn't mean that we use the exact same thing for every single thing, because that would actually be super boring. But it gives you like a better starting point, and it really can save time. You're going to see that. So we've already got a bunch of effects on there. Again, we've got our saturation, we've got some stress box compressing, we've got our side chain, which I'm going to show you how to set that up. And these are our settings. So what we've actually done is we've went into, let me show you, I guess. So you see how it starts us off with something, this shape here. It's called, which one is this? It's called a saw wave. And what we've done is we've actually changed it to a sine wave. You see how this one's like curvy and this one's sharp? It's going to change our fundamental frequency of our sound, and they sound totally different. Let me see actually if I could. Oh, sorry. I've never seen where it said suspended processing. Why does it say that? Maybe we can't have two serums on one. Can we not have two serums on one? That's crazy. Okay. So you see how that it sounds. I have no idea how to describe that sound, but it sounds like a thing. And then over here, now you're probably not going to hear this if we don't have headphones on. If you were in a car right now and this was playing through the car stereo, it would be like rattling the windows. So the difference is, one is a very higher frequency, kind of like buzzing sound, and then this guy here is very low. It's called subharmonic frequency. It's what we're using for our sub bass, and you don't really hear this stuff as much as you feel it. It's that rumble in your chest, but you need this for your song to sound good. So again, if you have little earbuds or headphones or something, you're probably gonna hear the difference between this, and you're gonna go, oh wow, okay. So we're just gonna program that real quick. Now what we want to do is we want every time, let's move my sub up here real quick so I can show you this a little bit better. So for this, we're going to make a MIDI item. So we highlight the area that we want to create our MIDI item. And for me, I have it set as a macro on my mouse, because I have macros on my mouse. But if you don't have a macro set, oh my god, I don't remember. I don't even remember how to set. I haven't set it like this in so long. I've been using macros for so unbelievably long. Okay, insert new track. Sorry, you can hit Control T, or you can click insert new track. Okay, no, that wasn't it either. Where's the MIDI item? One second. That's crazy. All right, well, for me, I have it set as a macro. Unfortunately, I don't even remember. Oh, wait, it's in here. Insert new MIDI. No, that's not it. Insert new MIDI item. Yay. Okay, so instead of going up and hitting insert new MIDI item, for me, I can just hit a button on my mouse. You select a track on the side that you'd like to create the MIDI item for, and then you use that command. Um, like, I love having it on my thumb for my mouse, so that's why I've done that. Now that we've gotten past that, if we double click on our MIDI item, it's going to bring up something called the piano roll. So the piano roll is where we're going to be writing our MIDI. So MIDI is just musical note information. I don't know if you've come across that yet. And here's our sine wave. Oh, I love that rumbly sound. Now this is where we're going to start using some of our music theory. I don't know a lot about music theory, definitely not anywhere close to being qualified as a teacher, but we're in F minor, so the root of that is obviously F, and the F minor chord, I believe, is F, D, A. So we can use F, A, and D for our subranges. We're probably just going to use two of those, actually, because I'm pretty sure D is actually our perfect fifth or our minor fifth or whatever it's called. And we don't use it a lot, but we'll use it sometimes. And this is a pattern that works almost every time. And what you're going to have is when your drum kick hits, so like the low thumpy part, when that kicks, you're going to want the bass to play. When your snare hits, you're going to want the bass to stop. So I'll show you. So you can see it stops right when that snare hits. It's like that click sound. That's where we want it to stop. Next kick comes in, we want it to hit. So let's see where our next kick lands. So our next kick is landing here. And of course you can get interesting, like I'm sure you maybe you noticed it kind of sounded cool for the bass to come in and then the kick to hit. Of course, that's something that you want to start doing. You want to start mixing up your patterns, and we're definitely going to be doing that as well. And I'm probably going to bring it back down to F. And then we'll do that perfect fifth over here. Well, maybe, yeah, we'll come back down to D. Or what is this? A, sorry, come back down to A. Maybe not, yeah. Maybe we might not do that. You kind of just play with your arrangement until you figure out where it sounds good. But essentially all you're doing is if you're in F minor like we are, you just look up the F minor chord, and then those three pitches are basically where you're allowed to hit your notes on. So that's all we're doing right now. We just do that for the sake of... We just do it like that for the sake of the tutorial. But yeah, I mean, I would have, if this was like a song that I really wanted to sit here and spend a lot of time on, I'd probably play around until I found some super cool like bass line. But right now, that's what we're gonna go with. Maybe we'll do something with that fifth at the end, actually. Oh, we're missing one. fifth at the end. Bring this down there too. That's better. So now, like, what I'll do is I'll copy this and I'll paste this. And if you're happy with that, cool. But something that I like to do is usually try to make the second one somewhat different, or sometimes I won't. But if you're going to make it different, make it either at the beginning of your second bass groove or at the end of your second bass groove. You don't want to get into like doing stuff on the inside of the bass groove until later. I mean, really, there are no rules. You can do whatever you want. But if you want it to sound really cool really quickly, remember at the beginning or the end of the phrase is really where you want to change things up. And just for right now, I'll copy this, paste this over here. And usually what I would do at the end of my 8th bar or my 8th measure, whatever you'd want to call it, I like to cut out my drums. I don't do this every time. Sometimes I'll stutter the drums or something cool, but this is like guaranteed to work usually. Yeah, actually goes really nicely with our synths, especially the one, like the lower vibration one, because I notice it has like a stutter. Might even actually cut this one out. That really puts an emphasis on that stutter, which is cool. If we add a little bit of reverb to this, it will stop that from having like a super abrupt stop. If you notice, like as soon as I bended this in, it kind of stopped kind of abruptly. The reverb is gonna help it kind of carry out. There's another way to do that too. If you didn't want to have all that reverb stuff there, there's another way to do that. Yeah, you know what? We might have to do it the other way actually. So the other way, so I'm going to hit S on my keyboard, and that's going to slice this item. And then I'm going to drag that by holding Alt, left clicking on the edge, and dragging out. That's how I did that. And what that does is it stretches. Now, stretching is cool because actually, I don't even know how to explain stretching. Basically, it makes the thing longer. If you stretch it too long, it's going to sound weird, though. I like that, yeah. That sounded cool. But if you stretch it really long, I'll show you what it sounds like if you stretch it really long. It kind of sounds weird now. But if that one actually didn't sound that weird. There's ones that sound way weirder, but that might have been cool to actually stretch the whole thing out and make like a whole new melody out of it. And that's actually another thing that you can do. If you ever get bored, you can make whole new melodies and samples out of things that are already made just by stretching them. So I don't know if you like how that sounds, but that's something that I would personally keep. I think that's cool. I use stretching sometimes quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and move our bass back down here. The reason why we keep everything together as well is you'll notice that at the top of all of these sections, there's actually a gray one. And that gray one is a parent track. So whatever I do to this gray track, it's going to do everything to the colored ones underneath it. And then it's going to stop at the last one. And again, I'm going to show you how to set that up as a template later on. But it's really important to have that because if when we start to mix this down, we have this kind of in sections, like we have our drums, our melody, and our bass. When we start to mix this down, we can make changes to everything, each section at once, like without worrying about it, or without doing it over and over again to separate ones, which can save up processing power as well. Anyways, let's go back to our co-producer. Now, from here, we can keep looking for melodies, keep switching things up, blah, blah, blah. But for the sake of this tutorial, we'll do vocals. Dark, melodic vocals. I know I'm using those search terms quite a bit. That's just what I've been into lately. You can really put anything you want in here. So I liked that one. I'm going to use that one. I'm going to put it down here in my vocal bus. That's what these sections are actually called. They're called buses, which I don't know why they're called that, but so first thing I usually do is kind of turn this level dial down. That's going to just bring it a little quieter. Try to make things somewhat quiet at first because we're going to make them much louder at the end of the song. There's a reason for that. So I'm going to show you how to use EQ, which is like one of the... You probably use EQ more than anything else that I've even talked about. So it starts out like this. Nothing has been done to the frequency yet. And I wish I could make this bigger, man. I really do. But if you can see here, it says 60, 100, 200, 300, 400, 1000. And it just kind of goes until it hits 20,000. That is the frequency spectrum. And I don't even think humans can hear everything on that spectrum, but you certainly can feel it. So what we're going to do for this particular item is we're going to take the low end out. So we would bring that 1 and see how we cut it. We kind of cut it off. That's what we're going to start with. What that does is it gets rid of the frequencies that would be fighting with our bass and our drums. And I think for vocals, it just sounds better. Right now I have an envelope going for the frequency level of the low end, so that's why I can drag it from this purple line, if you're wondering why I did that. And then we're going to make a small cut right at 1,000. So I don't know if you can hear the difference. I don't know if you have headphones. Hopefully you do, or the sub bass part would have been really boring. But it sounds different. See, when I take that check mark off and I play it, sounds slightly different. It probably sounds like quieter to you, but it's allowing... If we were to just start adding all this stuff and we didn't do that at all, eventually it would sound horrible. Right now we're picking sounds that actually sound good together. And if you see up here, I have envelopes cutting my low end off of these sounds automatically. These sounds are all pretty high range frequencies anyway, so I don't think, aside from this one, I don't think they would muddy up our mix too much, but it's a good thing to get used to doing. And actually, if you were to start adding your own vocals, say if you're rapping over this, you might even want to cut the 1000 on this as well, because this is pretty harsh sounding. The mid-range of your voice would be fighting for space with that, but that's another story for another day. So So yeah, this is getting pretty decent so far, I think. Right here, something that I would like to do as well, something that I usually like to do is add some like reverse effects. So I'll look for just a clap. Oh, this one already has it. I think this one already has exactly what I want. Oh, it does too. And normally I would take one clap like this one in the beginning, and I would just reverse that. But this one is already doing it for us. Now I'm going to show you why compression is so awesome. So you see how it sounds now. If we turn this up. We can even automate this so that it turns up on its own. We don't want to turn it up like too much. So it's a lot of those cool like whooshing effects are just reverse snares, reverse claps. They're just things turned around. I can also add reverb on that, and that's going to make it sound cool as well. Maybe some delay. It's really just a matter of what you want to put on there. Oops, I accidentally set a marker. Yeah, and basically that's what you would do is you would just keep looping this stuff. There's a bunch of other techniques that you can search for and find. You know what? Let's look. Let's see if we could find something cool for a synth. Put a synth on there. I'm really into Co-Producer right now because it's been making things take a lot. It's been making things faster for me for sure. We're going to use this entire thing. Yeah, kind of like. Let's see what we can do with this. So for this one, we're going to automate our cutoff. This is just a filter, by the way. It kind of does the same thing that EQ thing does, but with a whole bunch of like built-in effects. It's got something called resonance, so that when the frequency sweeps, the end of the frequency gets boosted, and it makes a really cool sound. Maybe we'll do something cool with Serum too, actually. So when that second phrase starts, I'm going to use something called a sequencer. So unfortunately, I don't have any cool, I really should, but I don't have any cool like presets for Serum. So presets are like pre-built basically settings. I don't have any cool ones. I just have what comes with it. Was looking for sequencer. Oh, there it is. What the future holds. What's this gonna sound like? I hope this isn't loud. It's kind of cool, not really what I was looking for. Oh wow, and of course we should hit Control S and save this, because if this ever crashes on you, you're not going to get your file back. So we'll just name this Bass. Let's name it Super Bass. So we have our file named. That to me sounds kind of cool. I'm not sure if that's going to go with our thing, but we'll find out. So again, we're in F minor, so we should use an F, D, or an A. There are a couple other pitches we could use, but just for a basic melody, we should be using F, D, or an A. I'm going to try A. I am not liking the way that that is sounding, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes you find stuff that you don't like. Oh, what if we change the steps? This little bar graph over here is called steps. Might be able to change that. No, I just don't like that one. Wow, it gave us a snare, okay. It was a creepy noise. That's kind of cool, dude. It sounds like a radio or something. I kind of want to use that. Like a radio that's messed up. Yeah, I kind of want to use that. thermal on that. Let's see what thermal can do for us. Thermal's gonna give us some cool distortion. Let's throw the M12 filter on there. High pass filter. Yeah. So we're gonna automate our low pass filter so that over time, right towards the end, it's going to fully open. When it fully opens, we're getting all of the sound. When it's closed or turned off, we're getting less of the high end. So we start it like that. Now, one last thing I'm going to show you is the side chaining effect. So to get the side chain really rolling here, we're going to have to slice up all of these drums, which is going to be like super annoying, but we're going to do it anyways. Let's go. I'm going to change our grid value to 1/16. It's going to allow us to chop a little more finely. Give us a finer slice and dice. Apologize my choice of words. Just slicing these up with the S key on our keyboard. That one sounds pretty cool. It's got the hi-hats rolling with it. Once we get all these sliced up, it's going to allow us to separate them from the rest of the drum loop. Now, if you think this part is lame, you can actually can use something called a drum kit on a sampler, where you can actually play your own drums like with your fingers on a keyboard or a digital drum or an analog drum machine. You can go that route. A lot of people actually do that. I don't, because I don't have one. Alright, so now that I've done that, I did it the wrong way, kind of, but let's get rid of all of the non-sliced pieces on one track. Could I have done that faster? Probably. What I should have done is deleted all of one line and then just dragged the other stuff down, like the remaining stuff down. That's what I normally do. Is that? Oh, it's a snare. Okay, that's cool. Okay, so now that we are all separated, I'm gonna actually bring this over there as well. Kind of allows you to get a little more fancy with your breaks too. Anyways, now that we have done that, just gonna remove arcade on that channel. Gonna go down here to our sub. I like to compress and saturate the subs pretty well the same way that I do the kicks. Now there is a reason for that. It makes them sound, because they're like one and the same, you know. Like your kick has to work with your sub, really. Not too much of a difference, but when they're all together, there certainly is a difference. So we've got kick, sub. I'm naming them because that's going to make this next part easier. So the side chain is going to be coming from a stock compressor that we have in Reaper called Recomp. These are the settings. Um, they don't really matter too much. The threshold really matters. The knee size kind of matters. And the attack matters. The attack and the release should be already like this. You're going to want to drag your threshold down to when the level meter starts hitting. You're going to want to drag that down. That's going to cause the ducking effect. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. So here is the kick and the sub without ducking. Here's what it sounds like with some slight ducking. I don't know if you can hear that, but it starts at like a lower, not really volume. Volume isn't the right word, but it gets quieter and then louder when the kick fades out. See, now you can barely hear the sub. So right at 8.1, I believe is where I had it. 8.1, 8.2. That's why I'm going to leave it for this setting. But you can play with that. If you bring that threshold all the way down and then kind of rise it up, as you're doing, say you're doing like a riser where you have like a pitch thing where your pitch is going up, like, and you have kicks or snares, and you automate that so it kind of rises with the pitch. It would sound really cool. People use it in like EDM music all the time. There's different things you can do with sidechain. In rap music, we don't use a lot of sidechain, but we use it on the subs like this, the way I'm doing it. So like music is really just a bunch of choices, man. Like, you know, it's not really you have to do this or you have to do that. It's really just a bunch of choices that at the end of the day when you make them, hopefully the choices you make your thing sound good, and it's going to take a lot of time to learn. You know, if there's one thing I could say is just have fun while you're doing it. You know, don't try to get too caught up in making certain sounds, because with things like Arcade and Co-Producer, the sounds are always going to be there. It's really good to learn sound design using something like Serum to understand what you're doing. But you know, you're young. You know, I wouldn't worry about getting caught up in little things that don't matter as much as just having fun and getting something cool out there into the world. So the last thing I do want to talk about is a master. I don't even really know why I'm telling you about this because it doesn't really matter. Most people don't master their own tracks anyways. But I try to do the best I can with this stuff, and it's really important to master a finished product. Um, we could talk a lot more about mixing too, and I probably should have. But if you like this video, maybe I'll make you another one. Anyways, your master track basically applies the effects to every single thing. And before the song is done, you're going to do something called mastering. And basically what it's doing is just bringing the best parts of the song out. So we didn't do a whole lot to this track. You know, the video could have been like 6 hours, but I think it was long enough. We didn't do a whole lot to this track, but like we could have done a lot more to it. But it's kind of good that we didn't do a lot because that gives our master and our limiter more to work with. So what I have for mastering is, I think it's called the Ultra Maximizer, which is a crazy name. Not gonna lie. And it's super simple, like compared to some of the other stuff that you probably looked at today. Like this is really simple. So all we're gonna do is bring our threshold down. And this is just gonna make the song like way louder. Then we're gonna bring our ceiling down. 1.4 is like kind of what people go for. And then there's some other things you can do on the master. God, what EQ do I want to use? I have like so many. I'll keep it simple, I guess. Another thing you can do is just EQ the very end. This is a parametric EQ, by the way, if you're wondering. There's lots of different kinds. You want to EQ the very, very end, like around after 20,000, and then probably before 20. You don't want to cut out 40 because that's like, I'd probably cut like, yeah, before 20. I know it doesn't seem like anything, but it cuts out like just unnecessary stuff that you don't really hear but you feel. That's always going to want to go before your maximizer. So I didn't say anything about this, but the positions of your plugins on your effects chain change how they work. And again, like we could probably talk about that another time if you're interested in that. And then something else I'm going to throw on there is Stressbox. You see me talk about that one a lot. I freaking love it, man. It's such a good plugin. Now, before I was going this way, right? For the master, I'm just going to slightly turn it that way. Slightly. Not all the way. Not a lot of the way. Just slightly. Like, before it hits that 0.7. We just want it slightly. And that's going to go before the maximizer. Another thing I'm going to add is this cool thing called tape mellow. This is a very interesting type of saturation. I don't know if you can hear this, but as soon as I turn this on, see we're getting volume down there, and it sounds like an old tape player. I don't know if you know what that is. You probably don't, but maybe you do. I don't know, but it sounds like that. And we're gonna take that off, and we're just gonna leave the other cool stuff. We're gonna turn our filter to no filter because we don't want it to filter our sound. We're going to leave our tone where it is. Maybe turn a little bit of the noise up, actually. And leave drive where it is. And this is going to give us... It's like a rich, thicker sound. And now if we play it back, it's going to be a little bit louder. So watch your ears. It shouldn't be too loud. But it's going to sound better now. I was saying too is how we could talk more about mixing. We talk about mixing pretty well all day. I think that's probably where most of my knowledge is. When it comes to these vocals, is putting like reverb and stuff on them. So let's see what I've got. I'm gonna actually use this one. I don't know if you can hear that. You see, it's got a slight difference. Now it kind of sounds like we're in a cathedral or a church or something. But in music, a lot of time less is more. A lot of time, like, we don't want a whole bunch of reverb on something unless you're really going for that effect. Another thing you can add is some delay. Again, the dry wet knob, you're going to see me control that a lot. You don't want a lot of these effects on it unless you know that's something that you're going for or you want to play around with cool stuff. You can kind of hear that vocal doing things with our drum cadence now, our drum rhythm now, because of all the effects we applied. the maximizer on the master, the expander that I just put on the vocals. That's all part of the mix down. Yeah, and I could talk for hours about mixing. Just like this could probably use Stressbox too. Now, which way you want to go with it is really up to you. This level can come down. Basically, you just want to make sure everything's like kind of balanced for what it is. And remember, if things start to sound quieter and they're too quiet, you can always adjust them. You can always bring the threshold level on your master down. Now, when you make something louder, there's this weird scientific thing that it makes it sound better. So again, mix quiet, master loud. Actually, I don't think I said that before, but mix quiet, master loud, and I think you'll do okay, man. If you got any questions, definitely feel free to ask me anytime. So appreciate you watching. Sorry it was so long, but there's a lot to go through. Again, I could have went through a lot more. And if you want to make another song, let me know, man. See ya.